Hey everybody, so in this video we're going to be working with exponential equations. So the problem says, suppose you purchase a large machine for your company for $13,000. Based on historical depreciation for this machine, it'll be worth $6,500 after 5 years. The depreciation is calculated as a fixed percentage each year. So basically what that means is that this machine will depreciate by the same value every year. So let's see what they want us to find. Find the multiplier for this situation. Okay, so let's think about exponential equations. They're normally of the form y equals a times b to the x. Now, a is always going to be the initial amount. This is what the item was worth the day you bought it, or if you're referencing another type of problem, it's what you initially start with. B is what your multiplier is. X represents the years that have passed, and Y is what you currently have today. So we're going to take the values from the problem and try to plug these in. So here we have $13,000 that we paid for the machine, okay? That's the initial value. That's what the machine was worth day of. So we'll write that in. We have $13,000 here. And then it says it will be worth $6,500 after 5 years. Well, X is time, and we're solving for B. So here, this would be times B to the 5th power, and then Y is what you have currently today, after the time has passed, so that is $6,500. Now what we're going to do is just try to isolate B. Well, this is 13,000 times b raised to the 5th power. So what I'll do to isolate b is I'll just divide by 13,000. So 6,500 divided by 13,000 is going to give me 1/2, and this equals b to the 5th power. Now, here, if you wanted to isolate something to the 5th power, there's a couple of ways you could do this. In Algebra 1, you learned that if you had x squared and you wanted x by itself, then what you could do is take the square root. And then in Algebra 2, you learned about rational exponents, and you know that the square root of x is the same thing as x to the 1/2. So taking the square root of x is the exact same thing as raising it to the 1/2. So here with b to the 5th, if I had, say, x to the 5th, I could take the 5th root, which is the same thing as saying x raised to the 1/5. So that's what we'll do to eliminate b to the 5th. Here we could raise this to the 1/5 power, and whatever we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. So we'll take 1/2, and we'll also raise it to the 1/5 power. Now, on our calculator, when we do that, when we say 1/2 raised to the 1/5, we get approximately 0.87. So this is going to be our multiplier. This is our b. So over here it says, write an equation that models this situation. So this is the equation for exponential functions, so I'm just going to plug in my values. We know a, we know x, and now we just found b. So my equation here would be y equals 13,000 times 0.87 raised to the x. This equation would model the depreciation of our machine. So on C it says, based on the multiplier, so based on 0.87, what is the annual rate of depreciation as a percent? Now, you've also seen this formula before. You've seen y equals the initial amount and then 1 minus the rate raised to either the x or the t. It just depends on what book you're looking at. Both, in this case here and here, are both representing a change in time. So R, this is always your rate, your percentage written as a decimal. So if I came down here, this would be 1 minus R equals 0.87. So here, this is the same thing as 1 minus 0.87 equals R. So my rate here is going to be 0.13, and they want it as a percent. So to get a decimal as a percentage, you would just multiply by 100, or just move the decimal 2 places to the right. So here, this would be 13%. Lastly, they say complete a table from 0 to 6 showing the value of the machine. So we'll have to do this on our calculator. So we'll jump to that now. So here on our calculator, we're going to type in our equation after hitting the y equals button. So we'll say 13,000 times 0.87 raised to the x. And then what I'll do is I'll hit second graph to go to my table, and then here are the values I would write down going from 0 here to 6. All right, so here is the table that I created. So again, they just wanted 0 to 6. On the one I just did 0 to 8. So you can see the depreciation of the machine. And remember that you are talking about money. So on ones like 3, 4, 5, if you wanted to write down these values, it is perfectly acceptable to round to the 100th. All right, that's going to be all for this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and we'll see you all in the next video.